Now, I don't know about you, but I've come to realize that life can be overwhelming. We plan, we strive, we push forward, and sometimes even with all our effort, things just don't work out the way we want. Can I tell you something today? That's okay. Because you were never meant to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. You see, the first principle I want to share with you is this: God is sovereign. That means He rules and reigns over all creation. His power is supreme, His knowledge infinite, and His wisdom unfathomable. So why would we finite beings insist on holding on to control? When we try to handle things our way, we're limited. But when we place everything in God's hand, we are tapping into a power that has no limits. Let me tell you this: faith is the antidote to fear. Life will throw uncertainties at you, trials, disappointments, failures, but here's the good news. Faith in God cancels the power of fear. Faith is not a denial of reality, it's the recognition that even in uncertainty, God is working. It's a declaration that we trust Him even when we cannot trace Him. Your faith tells fear it has no place in your life. One thing I have learned is this: God's plan is always bigger than ours. We may see only the present, but God sees the end from the beginning. Every challenge, every setback, every victory is part of a master plan. So instead of fighting for control, surrender to His purpose. There's a peace that comes when you say, Lord, I don't understand it all, but I trust your hand in my life. Surrender is not a sign of weakness, it's the ultimate act of strength. There's something powerful that happens when we say, Lord, I place this situation in your hands. I release control because you know what I do not. When you surrender, you are aligning yourself with the one who controls the universe. And trust me, He knows what He's doing. Let me tell you another thing: God's timing is perfect. You might be in a season of waiting, feeling like the breakthrough hasn't come yet, but don't rush ahead of God. His delays are not denials. You may not see it now, but in due season, the very thing you've been waiting for will arrive, and you will know that it came at the right time, in the right way. Prayer is the key. If you're going to leave everything in God's hand, you must communicate with Him. Prayer is your lifeline. It's how you place your worries, your dreams, your burdens before Him. In the quietness of prayer, God brings peace, guidance, and reassurance that He is in control. So when life becomes overwhelming, don't panic, pray. I know there are times of uncertainty, times when the answers seem far away. But listen to me carefully: uncertainty is not the absence of God's hand, it's the opportunity for His hand to move. Trust Him through it all. He has never failed, and He won't stop with you. And here's something we need to cultivate: patience. We live in a world of instant gratification, but God doesn't operate on our timeline. Waiting on God builds character, it strengthens our faith. So while you wait, remember that God is working behind the scenes, preparing you for the next chapter of your life. When you place everything in God's hands, there's an exchange that takes place. He takes your anxiety and gives you peace. Peace that doesn't make sense. Peace that quiets the storms of your mind and heart. That's the peace of God that passes all understanding. As I close, I want to encourage you with this: when you leave everything in God's hand, you will see His fingerprints all over your life. There are countless testimonies of people who let go and let God, and their lives were never the same. Remember this: as you walk out of here today, you are not alone. You don't have to carry the weight. Leave it all in God's hand and watch Him turn it into something greater than you ever imagined. When we speak of leaving everything in God's hands, we must begin by recognizing His sovereignty, His ultimate power, authority, and control over all things. This is foundational to our trust in Him. The very nature of God is that He is above all, beyond all, and in control of all. From the creation of the universe to the details of your daily life, nothing escapes His attention or dominion. Think about it: the stars in the heavens, the oceans that rise and fall, the seasons that change, all of these are under His command. If God can control the cosmos, how much more can He handle the intricacies of your life? There is nothing too big or too small for Him. Your worries, your dreams, your challenges, they all fit within the vastness of His power. We often get overwhelmed because we feel the need to control everything. We try to manage outcomes, we stress over possibilities, and we fear what we cannot predict. But can I tell you something? That's exhausting. The truth is, we weren't designed to carry the weight of the world on our own. We were designed to rely on the one who holds the world in His hands. When you truly understand that God is sovereign, it changes your perspective. You begin to realize that you don't have to have all the answers because God does. You don't have to fight to make everything happen because God is already at work. He is in control, not just of the broad strokes of history, but of the fine details of your life. Every step you take, every door that opens, every closed door, it's all part of His divine orchestration. God's sovereignty means that He sees what we cannot see. He knows the beginning from the end, the past from the future. He understands how everything fits together. We, in our limited understanding, may not always grasp why things happen the way they do. But we can rest in the fact that God is never caught off guard. He is never surprised. What may seem like chaos to us is well within His control. And here's something even more powerful to grasp. God's sovereignty is not distant or detached. It's personal. He is intimately involved in the affairs of your life. Scripture reminds us that even the very hairs on your head are numbered. If God cares about the smallest details, how much more does He care about your deepest concerns and greatest needs? When we talk about leaving everything in God's hand, we are saying that we trust Him to work things out according to His perfect will. This requires faith in His goodness. You see, God's sovereignty is not just about His power, it's about His heart. He is not only able to control all things, but He also desires what is best for you. Sometimes what we want and what God wants may look different, but we can trust that His ways are higher than ours and His plans are far better. So when life feels out of control, remind yourself that God is still on the throne. The world may shake, circumstances may shift, but His sovereignty remains unshaken. He is constant. He is unmovable. And that is why we can trust Him with everything, our fears, our hopes, our burdens, and our future. Let go of the need to control everything and rest in the knowledge that God's sovereignty is at work in your life. He is not only capable, but also committed to leading you toward the destiny He has prepared. Trust in Him, for His hands are far more capable than ours ever will be. When it comes to leaving everything in God's hands, one of the greatest obstacles we face is fear. Fear can paralyze us, keep us stuck in places of doubt, and prevent us from moving forward into the fullness of what God has for us. But faith is the antidote to fear. Where fear cripples, faith empowers. Where fear clouds our vision, faith gives us clarity. Fear, at its core, is rooted in uncertainty. It feeds off of what we cannot control or predict. We fear the unknown, the what-ifs that plague our minds when situations seem uncertain. But let me tell you, this faith isn't blind optimism, it's confidence in the one who holds the future. Faith says, even though I can't see what's ahead, I know God sees it all. It declares, though I don't have all the answers, I trust the one who does. When you have faith, you acknowledge that there's someone greater in control, and that someone is God. Fear will always whisper lies. It will tell you you're not going to make it, things will never change, what if it all goes wrong? But faith speaks louder. Faith says, God is with me and He has a plan for my life. It declares that no matter the circumstances, God's promises remain true. Faith is not ignoring the reality of life's challenges, but it is the assurance that despite those challenges, God is still good and still in control. In moments of uncertainty, it's natural to feel afraid. We are human after all. But here's the thing, you don't have to let fear dictate your actions. Fear may show up, but it doesn't have to rule over you. When you allow faith to rise, it silences the voice of fear. It enables you to move forward, even when you don't have all the details. Faith doesn't demand that we know every step of the journey. It simply asks us to trust the one who guides our steps. Think of Peter walking on water. The moment he took his eyes off Jesus and focused on the storm around him, fear took over and he began to sink. But as long as his eyes were on Jesus, his faith kept him walking. That's the key. Keep your focus on God, not on the storm. When you focus on the circumstances, fear will drown you. But when you focus on God, faith will lift you above the waves. Fear thrives in uncertainty, but faith thrives in trust. The more you trust in God, the more your faith grows and the less room there is for fear to operate in your life. Trusting God doesn't mean everything will always be easy or that there won't be struggles, but it means you are placing your confidence in His ability to see you through it. You can rest in the fact that God has gone ahead of you, preparing the way, even when you cannot see the road ahead. And let me tell you something important. Faith is a choice. You have to choose faith over fear daily. It's not something that happens automatically. When fear tries to take over, you have to actively decide to place your trust in God. That means speaking His promises over your life, reminding yourself of His faithfulness and choosing to believe that He is for you, not against you. Fear says you're on your own. Faith says God is with you every step of the way. Faith also knows that God's plans for you are good, even when things look bad. There are times when we face circumstances that seem hopeless, and fear can tell us that there's no way out. But faith declares, with God, all things are possible. Faith is not based on what you see, it's based on what God has said. And God's word is full of promises that remind us we don't have to live in fear. He has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Ultimately, faith is rooted in love. The Bible tells us that perfect love casts out fear. When you truly grasp how much God loves you, fear loses its grip. You begin to understand that God is not only able to handle your situation, but He also cares deeply about the outcome. He loves you enough to take care of the things that concern you. His love is perfect, and His love drives out the fear that tries to consume your heart. So today, choose to operate in faith. When fear tries to rise up, remind yourself of who God is. He is. When you leave everything in God's hands, you are not just letting go of control, you are aligning yourself with a purpose that is far greater than anything you could imagine. God has a plan for your life, a divine blueprint that goes beyond your current circumstances. Every experience, every victory, and every setback is part of a much larger picture. There are no accidents in God's plan. Nothing in your life is random. Everything is woven into the tapestry of His greater purpose. One of the most profound realizations you can come to is that God does not waste anything. What may feel like a detour or even a disaster in your life is often a critical step in God's perfect plan for you. Sometimes we think that because things aren't going the way we expected, we've somehow missed God's will. But God's plan is not fragile. He knows exactly what He is doing, even when we don't understand. His ways are higher than ours, and His thoughts are far beyond our comprehension. We may not always see the purpose behind certain events in our lives. There are seasons where it feels like nothing makes sense. But here's the truth: God is always working behind the scenes, orchestrating things for your good and His glory. The things that seem confusing now are often the very things God will use to position you for something greater. Just because you don't understand the process doesn't mean that God's plan has failed. In fact, it's usually in those seasons of uncertainty that God is preparing you for a breakthrough. One of the challenges we face is that we often want to know the whole plan up front. We want to see every detail, every twist and turn. But faith means trusting God even when the full picture isn't clear. It means walking in obedience today, even when you don't know what tomorrow holds. God rarely shows us the entire path all at once. Instead, He asks us to take one step at a time, trusting that He will guide us in the right direction. And as you take those steps of faith, you begin to see how God has been working all along. Your purpose is not just about what you achieve, it's about who you become. Often God's plan involves molding and shaping your character through the very trials and challenges you face. It's in the difficulties that you learn perseverance, faith, and dependence on Him. God is more concerned with your growth than your comfort. Sometimes the most profound moments of purpose come out of the seasons of struggle. The very things that seem like obstacles are often the tools God uses to refine and prepare you for the next chapter of your life. God's plan also involves timing, and His timing is perfect. We may feel like we're behind or that things aren't happening as quickly as we would like, but God is never late. Every delay, every moment of waiting is part of His purpose. There are things God is doing in the waiting season that are crucial to your future. He's aligning the right people, opening the right doors, and preparing the right opportunities. And when the time is right, everything will fall into place. You may be asking, what is my purpose in God's plan? Here's the beautiful truth: your purpose is unique. God has designed you with specific gifts, talents, and passions that are meant to be used for His glory. There is a calling on your life that only you can fulfill. But here's the key: your purpose is found in your relationship with God. As you seek Him, as you spend time in His presence, He begins to reveal more and more of His plan for you. The closer you draw to Him, the clearer your purpose becomes. But remember, your purpose is not just about you. God's plan for your life always involves blessing others. He has placed you where you are, given you the experiences you've had, and shaped you into the person you are today so that you can be a light to those around you. Your purpose is connected to impacting others, spreading hope, love, and truth in a world that desperately needs it. When you step into your purpose, it's not just for your benefit, it's for the benefit of everyone around you. In moments of doubt or confusion, when you feel like you don't know what's next, remind yourself of this: God's plan for your life is not a mystery to Him. He knows exactly what He is doing, and His purpose for you will unfold as you trust Him. You don't have to have all the answers, but you do have to walk in faith, believing that God's hand is guiding you each step of the way. So even when life feels uncertain, know this: you are part of something bigger than yourself. God's plan is at work, and your purpose is unfolding one step at a time. Trust Him and leave everything in His hands, knowing that His plan is not just good, it is perfect. One of the most difficult things for us to do is to let go of control. We hold on to our plans, our desires, and our worries, trying to manage everything on our own. But when? In our fast-paced world, we often become impatient, wanting everything to happen according to our own schedule. We have plans, dreams, and goals, and we expect them to unfold at a pace that suits us. But God's timing operates on a different level. His timing is always perfect, even when it doesn't align with ours. While we may want things to happen quickly, God sees the bigger picture. He knows what is best for us and when it is best for us. There are moments when it feels like life is at a standstill, like the things we've prayed for are not coming to pass. And we begin to wonder if God has forgotten us. But here's the truth: God is never late. Every season of waiting serves a purpose. Sometimes God is working in ways we cannot see, behind the scenes, aligning circumstances, shaping people, and preparing the perfect moment for the breakthrough. We tend to measure time in days, months, and years, but God measures time in purpose. He is not bound by our clocks or calendars. He moves according to His divine plan. And because of that, we can rest in the knowledge that He knows exactly what He's doing. Delay does not mean denial. What looks like a setback to us is often God setting the stage for something greater. Think about the process of growth. A seed planted in the ground doesn't sprout overnight. It takes time for the roots to grow deep before the plant breaks through the soil. In the same way, there are things God is doing in your life right now, things you may not be able to see, that are essential for your future. The waiting period is often a preparation period. God is growing your faith, refining your character, and developing the strength you'll need for the next season. It's easy to become frustrated when things don't happen in the time frame we expect. But remember this: God's timing is connected to His perfect wisdom. He knows exactly what we need and when we need it. If we were to receive things before we were ready, they could become more of a burden than a blessing. Sometimes we think we are ready for certain things, whether it's a promotion, a relationship, or a new opportunity. But God, in His wisdom, sees what we cannot. He waits until the right moment, ensuring that when we step into the next season, we are fully prepared. When we trust in God's timing, we also learn to develop patience and perseverance. Waiting is not wasted time, it's a time of growth and deepening trust. It's in these moments of waiting that we learn to rely more on God than on our own understanding. Waiting teaches us to rest in His promises, knowing that what He has spoken will come to pass in His perfect timing. Sometimes the delay is not just about preparing you, it's also about aligning other pieces of the puzzle. God's timing isn't just about you, it's about His greater plan. He may be working in the lives of others, preparing situations and opening doors that you have no idea about. Trust that when the time is right, everything will come together in ways you couldn't have orchestrated on your own. And here's the beauty of God's timing: when it happens, it will be better than anything you could have planned yourself. Prayer is one of the most powerful tools we have in our relationship with God. It is more than just a ritual or a religious obligation. It is a direct line of communication with the Creator of the universe. When we pray, we are tapping into the limitless power and wisdom of God. We're not just speaking words into the air, we are engaging with the one who has the ability to move mountains, heal the sick, and transform lives. Through prayer, we align ourselves with God's will and invite His presence into our circumstances. It is in these moments of prayer that we exchange our anxieties, burdens, and fears for His peace and direction. Prayer isn't just about asking for things, it's about connecting our heart to God's heart. It's a dialogue where we speak, but also where we listen, where we receive clarity, strength, and sometimes even the courage to wait. There is a power in prayer that goes beyond the natural. Prayer is the key that unlocks doors we could never open on our own. When we pray in faith, things begin to shift in the spiritual realm. God moves in response to our prayers, not because we force his hand, but because prayer is an expression of our trust in him. It's saying, God, I believe you are able to do what I cannot. Prayer also changes us. As we spend time in God's presence, he shapes our perspective, our attitudes, and our hearts. We begin to see things from his point of view. What seemed impossible before becomes possible, not because our circumstances have necessarily changed, but because we've gained a deeper understanding of God's power and his faithfulness. When you pray, you are not limited by your own strength or understanding. You are reaching out to the one who knows all things, who holds all power, and who loves you with an everlasting love. God hears every prayer, even the ones whispered in moments of doubt and fear. He is attentive to the cries of his people. And though his answers may come in unexpected ways, he always responds with what is best for us. There is no prayer too small or too great for God to handle. Whether you are praying for the salvation of a loved one, for healing in your body, for provision, or simply for peace in your heart, God is listening. And even more, God is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all we ask or imagine. But prayer requires faith. It's not about having all the answers before you pray. It's about trusting that God already does. Sometimes we may not see the immediate results of our prayers, and that can lead to frustration. But remember, God works in his perfect timing. Delays are not denials. Often God is working in ways we cannot see. And it's through persistent prayer that we partner with him in bringing about his will. Life is filled with uncertainties. Each day brings new challenges, unexpected changes, and sometimes even overwhelming situations that leave us feeling anxious and unsure. In these moments of uncertainty, it can be easy to let fear take hold, to worry about what might happen next, and to question whether we are on the right path. Yet, it is precisely in these moments that we are called to trust in God more deeply than ever before. Trusting through uncertainty means recognizing that God is sovereign. He is not surprised by the twists and turns of our lives. While we may feel lost, God sees the entire picture, every detail, every outcome, and every possibility. When we embrace this truth, we can find peace in knowing that nothing is outside of his control. Our circumstances may change, but God remains constant. His faithfulness does not waver. His love for us is unwavering. In times of uncertainty, our faith is tested. It is easy to trust when everything is going well, when our plans are unfolding as we hoped, and when life is smooth sailing. But trust becomes profound when we choose to rely on God in the unknown. It's about saying, even though I can't see the way ahead, I know God is with me. It's about surrendering our need for clarity and control, and instead embracing the mystery of faith. Trusting God during uncertain times requires a conscious decision. It means shifting our focus from the storm around us to the God who calms the storm. The more we cultivate our relationship with him, the easier it becomes to trust. As we spend time in prayer and in his word, we are reminded of his past faithfulness, his promises, and his unchanging nature. The more we know him, the more we can trust him, even when we don't understand. It is important to remember that God has a plan for our lives, a plan that is good, even when we can't see how. In Jeremiah 29:11, God assures us that he knows the plans he has for us, plans to prosper us and not to harm us, plans to give us hope and a future. This promise holds true even when life feels uncertain. God is weaving our stories together, and every chapter, even those that are difficult, serves a purpose in the larger narrative of his divine plan. In the face of uncertainty, it's okay to express our doubts and fears to God. He can handle our honesty. The psalmist often cried out in distress, questioning God and expressing their feelings of abandonment. Yet, even in their anguish, they ultimately chose to trust in his goodness. We can do the same. It's perfectly acceptable to say, God, I don't understand why this is happening, and then follow it up with, but I trust you. When we find ourselves in uncertain situations, it's also crucial to surround ourselves with a supportive community. Shared faith can strengthen our own. When we hear testimonies of how God has been faithful to others in their times of uncertainty, it builds our own faith and reminds us that we are not alone. We are part of a larger body of believers who have walked similar paths and who can encourage one another to trust God through the storms of life. Furthermore, trusting through uncertainty often leads to deeper growth and transformation. God uses these moments to shape us, refine our character, and develop our resilience. Every challenge we face has the potential to produce perseverance, character, and hope. It's in the uncertainty that we often discover new strengths, deepen our faith, and grow closer to God. Ultimately, trust is a journey, not a destination. It's okay to take it one day at a time, to acknowledge our fears, and to lean into God's promises. As we step forward, we can rest in the assurance that God is walking beside us. Even when the path is unclear, we can trust that He is leading us toward His perfect will. Trusting through uncertainty doesn't mean we won't face challenges, but it does mean that we are anchored in the truth that God is good. He is faithful, and He is always working for our good, even when we can't see it. So when life throws you into uncertainty, remember to anchor your trust in God. He is the one who holds the future in His hands, and He will guide you through every storm. Your faith in Him will light the way, providing peace amidst chaos and strength in your weakness. Trust Him and watch how He transforms your uncertainty into a testimony of His faithfulness. In a world that thrives on instant gratification, patience can often feel like a lost virtue. We want what we want, and we want it now. Yet, in our spiritual journey, patience and endurance are essential qualities that help us navigate life's challenges and uncertainties. These qualities remind us that growth and progress often require time and perseverance. Patience is the ability to wait without becoming frustrated or anxious. It is about trusting God's timing and recognizing that He knows what is best for us. When we find ourselves in situations that test our patience, we can be assured that God is using these moments to build our character. The Bible tells us in James 1:4 that we should consider it pure joy when we face trials of many kinds, because the testing of our faith produces perseverance. It's a reminder that trials are not just obstacles, they are opportunities for growth. Endurance is the strength to continue despite difficulties. It is about holding on to hope and faith. Even when the road ahead seems long and arduous, life will inevitably throw challenges our way, and how we respond to these challenges often defines our journey. Endurance is the mindset that says, I will not give up. It recognizes that setbacks are not the end of the story, they are part of the process. When we practice patience and endurance, we align ourselves with God's purposes. God often uses waiting periods to prepare us for what He has in store. These times can feel uncomfortable, but they are crucial for our development. Like a seed planted in the ground, we may not see the growth immediately, but beneath the surface, God is working to bring forth something beautiful in His perfect timing. It's also important to understand that patience and endurance are not passive qualities. They require active engagement. We must choose to wait with a heart full of faith, trusting that God is at work, even when we cannot see it. This is where prayer plays a crucial role. In moments of waiting, prayer becomes our lifeline, providing strength and encouragement. As we communicate with God, we are reminded of His faithfulness and His promises, which helps sustain our patience and endurance. Moreover, cultivating these qualities can transform our perspective on challenges. Instead of viewing difficulties as inconveniences, we can see them as stepping stones toward our growth. Patience allows us to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. It teaches us to consider the bigger picture, to recognize that God is in control and that His plans will ultimately prevail. As we endure through challenges, we also become witnesses to others. Our patience in the face of adversity can inspire those around us. When others see how we navigate tough times with grace and faith, they may be encouraged to seek the same strength in their own lives. Endurance can become a testimony of God's faithfulness, showing that even in our struggles we can find hope and strength. Additionally, we must remember that we are not alone in this journey. God walks with us through every trial. He knows our struggles and feels our pain. In moments of weakness, we can lean on Him for strength. He promises to give us rest when we are weary and to renew our spirits. When we feel like we cannot endure any longer, we can find solace in His presence, drawing from His infinite well of strength. In the end, patience and endurance are gifts that God cultivates within us. They are not just qualities to strive for, they are pathways to deeper faith and trust in God. When we embrace patience, we learn to wait on His timing with hope and expectation. When we endure, we discover resilience and strength we didn't know we possessed. So as you navigate the challenges of life, remember that patience and endurance are essential companions on your journey. Trust in God's process, lean into His promises, and allow Him to shape you through every waiting period. Your faithfulness in these times will bear fruit, leading to a life rich in purpose and testimony. In patience and endurance, you will find that God is working all things together for your good, creating a beautiful story that reflects His glory. In a world that often feels chaotic and overwhelming, anxiety can become a common companion in our lives. From daily stresses to unforeseen challenges, it's easy to become consumed by worry and fear. Yet amidst the turmoil, we are offered a profound promise. God's peace, which transcends all understanding, is available to us, even in our most anxious moments. God's peace is not merely the absence of conflict or trouble. It is a deep, abiding sense of calm and assurance that comes from knowing He is in control. This peace is a gift that we receive when we choose to trust in Him rather than in our circumstances. Philippians 4:6-7 reminds us that we are to be anxious for nothing but to present our requests to God in prayer. When we do this, His peace guards our hearts and minds. This means that even when the storm rages around us, we can remain anchored in His presence. Understanding God's peace requires us to shift our perspective. When anxiety arises, it often stems from our desire to control outcomes, to predict what will happen next, or to ensure that everything goes according to our plans. However, we must recognize that our understanding is limited and our control is an illusion. God is sovereign. He sees the end from the beginning and knows what is best for us. When we release our need for control and surrender our worries to Him, we open ourselves to His peace. This peace does not mean that we will be free from difficulties or challenges. Life will still throw curveballs our way, and we will face moments that test our faith. However, God's peace enables us to navigate these trials with a sense of calm and assurance. It allows us to face the unknown with confidence, knowing that we are not alone. He walks with us, guiding us through every valley and storm. In moments of anxiety, we can find refuge in God's presence. Spending time in prayer and meditation helps us refocus our minds on Him. When we bring our worries before God, we acknowledge our dependence on Him. This act of surrender invites His peace into our hearts. We can also find comfort in His word, which is filled with promises that remind us of His faithfulness. Verses like Isaiah 26:3 declare that those whose minds are steadfast on God will be kept in perfect peace. Additionally, it's important to be proactive in managing anxiety. While prayer is essential, we can also take practical steps to cultivate peace in our lives. This can include establishing healthy routines, seeking support from others, engaging in physical activity, or practicing mindfulness. God has given us tools to manage our emotions and stress, and utilizing these tools can help us create an environment conducive to His peace. As we seek God's peace, we must also remember to practice gratitude. Gratitude shifts our focus from what we lack to what we have, reminding us of the countless blessings in our lives. When we intentionally recognize and give thanks for the good, we create space for peace to flourish. In moments of anxiety, a simple practice of listing what we are grateful for can dramatically alter our perspective and invite God's peace into our hearts. It's also crucial to recognize that peace is not a one-time experience, it is a continual choice. Every day presents new challenges, and we must consciously choose to lean into God's peace. This may require us to repeat the process of surrendering our worries to Him, reminding ourselves of His promises, and seeking His presence regularly. As we cultivate this habit, we will find that God's peace becomes a more constant companion in our lives. Moreover, God's peace has a ripple effect. When we experience His peace, it overflows into our interactions with others. We become beacons of hope and calmness in a world filled with anxiety. Our ability to remain grounded in God's peace allows us to extend that same peace to those around us. In times of turmoil, our calm demeanor can be a testimony of God's faithfulness to others, drawing them closer to Him. In conclusion, anxiety may be a natural part of life, but it does not have to define us. We have access to God's peace, a peace that is powerful enough to surpass our understanding and fill us with hope. When we choose to trust in Him, surrender our worries, and seek His presence, we will find that His peace becomes our refuge and strength. So in moments of anxiety, take a deep breath, remember who God is, and invite His peace into your heart. Trust that He is in control, and allow His presence to wash over you, bringing comfort and assurance in every situation. As you embrace God's peace, you will discover a life that is not dictated by anxiety, but anchored in hope, trust, and unwavering. In the journey of faith, testimonies of trust serve as powerful reminders of God's faithfulness and His ability to work in our lives. Each story carries a unique narrative, revealing how individuals have navigated through challenges, uncertainties, and fears by placing their trust in God. These testimonies inspire us and strengthen our own faith, showing that we are not alone in our struggles. When we hear accounts of those who have trusted God in difficult times, we are reminded that trust is a choice. It is a decision to believe in God's goodness, even when circumstances seem dire. Each testimony reflects a moment when someone stood at the crossroads of doubt and faith, choosing to lean on God rather than their own understanding. It's in these pivotal moments that we witness the transformative power of trust. For many, the journey of trust begins with surrender. They recount how they reached a point where they realized their own efforts were insufficient. In their vulnerability, they turned to God, seeking His guidance and strength. As they released their burdens into His hands, they discovered a profound sense of peace and assurance. Their testimonies reveal that in surrendering to God, they found clarity and direction in the midst of confusion. There are countless stories of healing and restoration that emerge from a place of trust. Individuals facing health crises, financial struggles, or relational breakdowns often share how, despite their fears, they chose to believe that God was working behind the scenes. As they continued to pray and seek Him, they experienced miraculous breakthroughs, sometimes in ways they never anticipated. These testimonies serve as a testament to God's power to heal, provide, and restore. Moreover, trust is often tested in the waiting. Many testimonies highlight the struggle of holding on to faith during seasons of delay. People recount their feelings of impatience and frustration as they pray for answers that seemed slow in coming. Yet, through perseverance and continued trust, they began to see the beauty of God's timing. Their stories reflect how, in the waiting, they learned to deepen their relationship with God, developing a trust that was anchored in His character rather than their circumstances. When we hear testimonies of those who have faced adversity with unwavering trust, we realize that trust does not eliminate challenges. It does not mean that life will be free from trials or heartaches. Instead, trust empowers us to face these challenges with hope and confidence. Each story serves a reminder that God is present in our struggles and He promises to never leave us nor forsake us. In community, testimonies of trust become even more powerful. Sharing our stories creates a tapestry of faith that uplifts and encourages others. When we share how God has been faithful in our own lives, we provide hope to those who may be grappling with their own uncertainties. These stories remind us that we are part of a larger family of believers, each of us walking our unique paths while leaning on the same faithful God. As we hear these testimonies, we are often inspired to reflect on our own lives. We are encouraged to consider the moments when we too chose to trust God amidst the storms. Every individual testimony invites us to cultivate a deeper relationship with God, to seek Him in our own struggles, and to share our stories of faith with others. In conclusion, testimonies of trust are powerful declarations of God's faithfulness. They remind us that we serve a God who is always at work, even when we cannot see it. As we listen to these stories, may we be inspired to trust God more fully in our own lives, knowing that He is capable of doing immeasurably more than we can ask or imagine. Our testimonies of trust can light the way for others, showing them that, regardless of the challenges they face, they too can lean on God and experience His faithfulness. As we reflect on the journey of leaving everything in God's hands, we are reminded of the profound truths that guide us through life's uncertainties. Trusting in divine sovereignty assures us that we are not alone in our struggles. God is intricately involved in every detail of our lives. When we choose faith over fear, we open our hearts to the possibilities that lie ahead, embracing the hope that comes from trusting in His perfect plan. Patience and endurance become our companions, equipping us to navigate through trials with grace and resilience. In moments of anxiety, we can find solace in God's peace, allowing it to wash over us and calm our restless hearts. As we surrender our burdens and release our need for control, we invite God to take the lead, trusting that His timing is always perfect. Through the power of prayer, we strengthen our connection with God, drawing upon His wisdom and guidance as we walk the path He has laid before us. Each testimony of trust we encounter serves as a beacon of hope, reminding us that others have faced similar challenges and have emerged with stories of God's faithfulness. In the end, our journey of faith is not about having all the answers or controlling our circumstances. It is about leaning into God's love, resting in His promises, and allowing His presence to guide us. As we leave everything in His hands, we can walk forward with confidence, knowing that He is faithful to lead us, protect us, and fulfill His purpose in our lives.